Merriam-Webster defines vaccines as a substance that is usually injected into a person or animal to protect against a particular disease. Oncologist Ezekiel Emanuel said that child vaccines were one of the great triumphs of modern medicine. Furthermore, according to the statistics and data collected by the Centers for Disease Control, preventable diseases such as the measles, mumps, rubella, polio, smallpox, diphtheria, the annual morbidity rate dropped to more than 99% decrease once vaccines were introduced into the population. Despite this, and despite the overwhelming consensus of the medical community talking about the advantages of vaccinations, there are still people, the vaccination rates are still on the decline over the last couple of years. So why, and what is driving this decrease in vaccination rates? Why the hesitation to vaccinate? And why this air of anti-intellectualism when it comes to scientific data versus home remedies that are usually found on internet blogs, internet forums? Hello, my name is Robert Toscano, and today I'm going to tell you why I believe that everyone that can vaccinate should vaccinate. So according to 2014 Centers for Disease Control report entitled Epidemiology and Prevention of Vaccine-Preventable Diseases, the 20th century morbidity rates as shown in this chart were equal into thousands. For example, pertussis, there was over 200,000 annual deaths for pertussis, more commonly known as whooping cough. The reason why it's called whooping cough is because of the severe bouts of coughing and the gasping for breath that is usually associated with this bacteria-driven disease. Also, whooping cough has been, there's been documented cases of people in the throes of these severe coughing fits actually breaking ribs, vomiting, and getting completely exhausted when just trying to breathe. So imagine that for a second. Over 200,000 people annually slowly suffocating to death because of this disease that could be easily preventable with a single pinprick. And that chart from the CDC showing these diseases, pertussis is not one of the only grotesque and abhorrent diseases. There's plenty of them that are easily just as painful and disgusting as pertussis, and actually as easily preventable as pertussis. Now I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking to yourself, but Rob, I've read that vaccines cause autism, and I've heard that too. But I have to tell you that that it's a complete myth. The myth was propagated and started by a fraudulent study, and it's just kind of existed since then because of fear-mongering and ignorance of the actual facts of the case. So if we're going to talk about the autism vaccine link, we have to talk about Andrew Wakefield and his 1998 study entitled Ileal Lymphoid Nodular Hyperplasia, Nonspecific Colitis, and Pervasive Developmental Disorder in Children, where in this study he claimed to show a clear link between the MMR vaccine, which is the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, and autism. Now, Andrew Wakefield was a British gastroenterologist who is widely thought of as the grandfather of the anti-vaccine movement. His paper caused a global panic concerning vaccines that had far-reaching effects on vaccination rates that we still see today. Now, as the scientific method goes, when a study comes out, mostly in the scientific method, you try to replicate that study. And when his peers couldn't replicate that study, an investigation was launched. This investigation uncovered that 2 years before the paper was released, Andrew Wakefield was hired by a lawyer named Richard Barr, who specialized in criminal negligence cases and was actually attempting to bring a class action lawsuit against the makers of the MMR vaccine, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. It was further uncovered that Andrew Wakefield was paid over $625,000 for his participation in this fraudulent lawsuit and fraudulent study. There was also a clear mismatch of the data that was collected during this study and when compared to what was actually put out in his study in 1998. The British Medical Council caught wind of this, looked into it, realized that it was a fraudulent study that was based on nothing but lies, so they retracted the paper. And not only that, but after 147 days of hearing evidence concerning the case, they disbarred him or prevented him from practicing medicine in Britain ever again. Andrew Wakefield, disgraced, moved to America, where he's widely heralded as a hero to the anti-vaccine movement, and is championed by pseudo-celebrities such as Jenny McCarthy, Jim Carrey, who for some reason still think that there is a link between vaccines and autism. For some reason, I guess they think that big government's trying to give everybody autism by giving them vaccines or something like that. However, the final nail in the coffin for the autism vaccine link came in April of 2014 by Dr. Luke Taylor and his study entitled "Vaccines Are Not Associated with Autism, an Evidence-Based Meta-Analysis of Case Control and Cohort Studies." This was a meta-analysis of 5 previous studies and was the largest study done trying to show a link from autism and vaccines. The studies involved over 1,256,407 children, with 5 case control studies of an additional 9,920 children. So again, the largest study of its kind for this meta-analysis. The findings were summarized as this. There is no link between vaccines and autism, no link between vaccines and autism spectrum disorder, and no link between the MMR vaccine and autism. Now we discussed why vaccines rates are declining. So now we should discuss why it's of the utmost importance to vaccinate, not just for yourself but for society as a whole. So when in talking about that, we have to talk about an important concept that goes hand in hand with vaccinations called herd immunity. And herd immunity, according to the 2013 book Epidemiology by L. Gordis, is the general immunity to a pathogen in a population based on the acquired immunity to it by a high proportion of members over time. Obviously, that's a very convoluted definition, but an important one. And the reason why it's important is because there are several people in the population that are immunocompromised. Those that are immunocompromised have a suppressed immune system and cannot receive vaccines, so they count on others around them to be vaccinated so that they're protected. Again, I said, that it's a very convoluted definition, so to give you a clear-cut example of what herd immunity could be at a base level. So imagine you're in a crowd of 20 people and it's raining, and 19 of those people, you are the only one without an umbrella. They all have umbrellas and they all open them and put them above their heads. Odds are you're going to stay dry in that situation. However, imagine the same scenario where only 10 of them have umbrellas. Odds are somebody's getting soaked. That's a very simplistic way to think about herd immunity and relying on the protection of others for the immunocompromised. Now, imagine, if you will, declining vaccination rates, and the resurgence of long thought eradicated diseases such as measles and pertussis, as we discussed. And imagine the pain and suffering that people in the United States would feel at the mercy of those diseases. Now, take that vision and realize that the sad reality is there's a really good chance that that could happen. Case in point, in 2014 there was a measles outbreak in Disneyland in California. There was also the highly publicized case of Riley Hughes' death due to whooping cough in March 2015. And this is all due to declining vaccination rates. You don't see these in third world countries where a lot of people are vaccinated. So the dangers of an unvaccinated populace are well documented, and this is why I believe that vaccination is important, and it almost borders on a societal responsibility. Just remember that when those vaccines were introduced, those morbidity rates dropped to near 100%, all because of countless hours of immense scientific research culminating in making a better world with just a single pinprick. This is why I believe it's extremely important to vaccinate. My name is Robert Toscano, and thank you very much.